Hello and welcome to Web of Light. And we are sitting here at Web of Light, and it is a week before Christmas, more or less, as this show is airing. And I'm Dr. Kevin, and I want to also welcome... Is she still gone? Wasn't she gone last week? She's still gone. Why do I put up with her? The space over here, it should be Angie Dianju, but she's on the lam. She went down to Kentucky playing Mrs. Partridge again, hanging out, taking care of one of her kids, leaving me to hold the bag and the coffee cup. What can I say? Luckily, I can do it without her. So welcome to another edition of Web of Light, where we bring you organizations, people, and ideas that weave a web of light throughout the world. Today we're going to have a guest I'll be introducing in just a moment. But as always, we're going to start with a quote. And instead of Angie and I kicking around the words of wisdom, I guess I'm just going to have to rope my guest in. We'll see if she's willing to do that, or if she's just going to say, hey, you know, I didn't get paid for the word of wisdom segment. I only got paid to do the interview. Oh, that's right, you didn't get paid at all. But that's okay. Anyways, today's quote, healing to make whole. When we step into healing, we step into a place of expansion, a place where we are becoming our greater self. It is touching more of the all self. In the all self, when there is pain, loss, disease, and or illness, it has come as a teacher. Upon learning the lesson, it will never leave you less, only more, changed, and even perhaps traveling in a different shape. That is why there is more room in a broken heart, because in fact, it's not broken, but expanded, if and only if healing has taken place. That was actually a piece that I wrote for when I was leading a drum circle at the Unitarian Universalist Church, where we were doing a healing drum circle to facilitate healing and to show how you could use drumming as a method of healing for yourself, for the community, even for the world. So I chose to share that quote today because we have with us someone who has dedicated their life to healing. Today's guest is Kristi Borst. Kristi sees her spiritual path and lifelong goal of one that assists others. That has led her to this moment in which she can channel God's divine healing energy. She connects to the God universal creator energy and within her heart center and to her clients. Distance is not a hindrance. They can be face-to-face or separated by continents. This energetic connections helps the client find his and her own healing resonance. Sometimes immediately, sometimes over time. You know, healing will always take place in its own time, no matter how fast or slow us or somebody else wants it to happen. You can find out more about Kristi at facebook.com/healingresonance4 for me, or Healing Resonance, again, the number 4.me. So now, Kristi, welcome.
Thank you, Kevin. It's wonderful to be here.
Not a problem. We love to have you here. Besides, you know, and again, you only get half of the Dr. Kevin and Angie show, but that's okay.
I'm fine with that. I don't know how many words of wisdom I'll have, but I'll do my best.
So besides the healing work that you do with clients, we have on the screen, and we have beside you also some of your art. So we're going to spend some time today talking about art as a healer, art as spiritual, creative art, and we're going to get to that in a minute. But, you know, I shared something that I had written for Healing Drum Circle.
That was lovely, by the way.
Oh, thank you. How would you define healing?
Oh, how would I define healing? I think healing has so many aspects. So to define it, I would look at the mental part of healing, the emotional part of healing, the spiritual part of healing, the physical part of healing. We're not just a physical body, we're a multidimensional being. So healing can have a different, I guess, effect in each of those. But I think it's primarily I guess I would say a shifting of energy, a shifting of consciousness, a shifting of one's reality from a space where things are not in balance and harmony to a place of balance and harmony.
Okay. So this is a time of year, a specific time of year where lots of things go on. It's the time of year actually where suicides are at an all-time high. Interestingly enough, there also tends to be more violence this time of year, and yet it's the happy holidays. What do you find that there is a greater need for your services this time of year historically? Do you find more people are reaching out to you for healing?
I don't necessarily find that more people reach out to me, but I reach out more. So, for example, just around Thanksgiving time, I've done a few group healing circles where I will actually go and do groups, or I did my chakra healing circle, which is a virtual circle around that time. So I try to put things out there during that time. But I think one of the, I guess, reasons I could see why it could be a hard time for people is that I think some people feel there's an expectation that you have to be happy. And if they don't feel that way, then they feel separation. They feel isolated. And I think one of the sad things is that people don't realize how connected we really are, and that there could be someone in your darkest moment of despair that's thinking of you at that moment and thinking how grateful they are that you're in their life.
This seems to be a season of paradoxes, and one of the reasons for me to have you on the show at this time is because it is a season of paradoxes. It's Merry Christmas and it's Happy Holidays. Not that I ever get caught up in any of that stuff myself. You know, I barely even notice the season. But it is this great paradox where alcohol abuse is up, food abuse is up. I mean, there's a lot of very mixed messages and pressures over the holidays. As healers, because as the audience knows, I work as a healer as well, and we all bring a different vector off the ball of healing into the planet, so to speak, and it's all needed. What do you think that the healers in the audience could be doing to help at this time that seems to be greatly wounded, actually?
So the thing that came to me before you asked that question, which I would like to just mention, is that one of the things I've kind of noticed and healed within my own self recently is that sense of expectation, that sense of what we project others are expecting of us. And most of the time it's not true. So getting to that point of just knowing within ourselves that what we feel is valid. What we think other people think of us is really none of our business, because that's based on their wounds, their life experience, where they're standing. They're not standing in our space, they're standing in their space. So learning how to let go of that sense of, I have to come with a significant other because everybody's going to have a significant other. No, you don't. You know, if you were invited to a party, you were invited to a party. You don't have to go with someone else. So it's getting to that point of being okay with showing up as who you are, authentically you. And I think what healers can do to, I guess, help others in this time is just to be that light of compassion, that light of empathy, that light of understanding to others, whether it's, smiling at people when you're out in public or, sending love to a specific situation. We can all touch other people through our intention and our heart.
So, so what I hear you say is, don't hesitate to show up at any gathering or any party or anything as just your significant self.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah. It's not, if you have a significant other, that's okay, but it's always all about showing up as your significant self. And a lot of times we're trained to believe that we are too insignificant to be okay to just be our significant self, instead of understanding that it all begins with us being our significant self.
And we are here to be that unique aspect of Source, God, the universe, whatever you call that higher power. We are each here to be that one. So that's, it's not about doing, it's not about achieving, it's not about learning, it's not about, more. It's about being. It's a beingness.
And, it can also, it's that in being that, we can end up playing that role and have other people play for that role for us, of holding each other in divine energy. Mm-hmm. Look to everybody else for the God within them and show to everybody else the God within you. Not the God over you, not to give your power away. So tell us a little bit about how your journey unfolded. I mean, did you like at the age of 3 when they said, "So, Kristi, what do you want to be when you grow up?" "Oh, I want to be an artist and a healer." Usually the story's a little longer than that.
Well, I might have said that. But that's, and it's kind of funny, I think, that everything happens just in its perfect divine way. And, things that happen to us can end up being wounds for us. And it might actually be part of our higher soul plan to heal those wounds and see if we can get back to that beingness. So for me, when I was 3, approximately, I did heal myself physically. I got a boo-boo, and my dad freaked out about it, and I healed it. And he freaked out even more and told me to never do that again. And I basically shut that down and totally forgot it was even there. Throughout my life, I would have flashbacks of a portion of that incident, but I never really knew what that meant. In 2011, I started really getting into what I would say an awakening. I was driving down the highway, and I had cars on either side of my car, and in the distance I saw a bald eagle flying up there was a river, and I saw it flying, and it ended up landing in my travel lane. And I just kind of projected in my head to it, "Please fly up, because I can't stop, I can't avoid you, I don't want to hurt you." And it actually started running toward my car. And I have a minivan, and it kind of came flying right up my minivan. And I think in that moment, there was something that kind of ignited within me. And, kind of a 2-year journey of really self-healing, healing the child self. And then in a reading, I had an actual flashback to the incident of healing myself and being told to shut it down. And this was with a Native American reader. And I basically said to him, you know, I do not want to be protected. I don't feel you know, which is what my dad's first, you know, response was, you know, protect her. And so I worked with him and my own intention to just release that contract with my father. And within a short time, just things would happen. I would know I could help somebody. I would ask if I could help them. And, you know, long-term pain or dis-ease, you know, would release from their mental, emotional, spiritual self. So I do feel that I have been a lifelong healer. I feel that when I'm in a situation, I'm an emotional transmuter. If there's heavy, dense emotion, or, you know, I'm the one that can kind of calm down a situation. I was the go-to person in grade school and high school when somebody had a broken heart. So I was still doing healing work, but not in the way that I'm doing it now. So to kind of back up to the artwork, not knowing I had the abilities that I have, being an artist, being a writer, I went into marketing communications and started a graphic design agency when I was 27, and have been doing that for a long time. And so the artwork that I'm doing is kind of a synergy or a marriage between who I thought I was here to be and who I know I'm here to be.
Well, and, you know, as I know that you know, none of what we had happen as we came to this point didn't have its purpose to make us who we are. So, you know, the things were going in place for your awakening to have this whole additional set of tools and skill sets already in place, ready to go, okay, let's hit the activate button now, as far as another layer of your spiritual work. You know, it's interesting because when you talk about the whole high school piece, I always said that, you know, because I just started doing a lot of psychic work as a teenager and early on, and then I took a break from it. And for the 12 years that I really focused on business and my early degrees and stuff like that, my relationships, my friendships, the people that worked for me were all people that needed healing. And so I was out there not being intentionally spiritual or psychic. I was being the business person running around doing all this healing anyways, because you can't ignore it.
If that's your role, that's your role.
That's your role.
Yeah.
And as soon as I claimed it, as soon as I owned that and stepped away from the corporate world and went into my practice of starting to do this as who I was, I needed to have, I didn't need to have all the other areas of my life to have people that needed me to heal them anymore, because I was now doing it as a living. So I bring that story up because I want to see, did you find that when you kind of proclaimed yourself or owned that you were a healer and started doing healing work, that it shifted some of the people in your life?
Yes. And it wasn't always easy. In some cases, it was painful for me. And again, this is kind of going back to what I said of my own healing. So when my dad told me to shut down my gift, I know intellectually, I know as an adult now that he was protecting me. But as a 3-year-old, what that felt like was that my dad couldn't love me for who I was. And so what I call original wound is that it mattered so much to me what other people thought of me, because my own dad didn't accept me for who I was. So I look for these, you know, kind of original wound things kind of going through my life. And so when I kind of stepped into who I am, who, you know, the powers that are kind of coming through me to help others, there were some people that rejected me, some people that had been my friend for 20 years or more. And that, again, touched that original wound. I didn't realize at the time that's why it bothered me so much. But now I do. And I have a saying that awareness equals the power of choice equals the power of change. So if I'm aware that I'm being triggered because of that original wound, because of that 3-year-old self, then I can say, okay, well, that's just that thing. That's just, you know, you're okay, you know. And I can have the choice to not respond or not get upset or not feel in any way less in my own self because someone else cannot see me or cannot understand me or whatever. It's that person's stuff. It's not my stuff.
I know that.
And I'm sorry to interrupt, but the other amazing thing is that other people come in
Oh yeah,
to fill those spaces in wonderful, wonderful ways.
absolutely. And you know, part of that is, you know, I have been working with my clients for years and going, when somebody has a problem with you, acknowledge you have a problem and it's yours, and I choose not to take it on. And I'm you know, I maybe feel sad that you have a problem, but doesn't have anything to do with me. So, you know, it is very powerful. Now, there's somebody out there right now that's watching this, and they know who they are. And they're going to be sitting there, and they're at that struggle that says, do I throw my whole life away as I knew it to embrace my spiritual side, to embrace my gifts? Am I strong enough? Do I have the courage, knowing that it will tear the fabric of what I thought life was if I step into this self that has been presented to me, this spirit self, this healer self, this much more powerful or centered self, but it's an unknown self. What do you want to say to that person? What guidance would you give them who's sitting there right now?
So I guess the first thing I would say would be that there's never, in my opinion, a situation where it's now or never. If you don't take an opportunity that presents itself, there'll be another opportunity. It might not be the same, but if you're not ready, then you're not ready. And for me, I didn't feel I had a choice, if that makes sense, in a positive way. I felt that almost like my whole life had been a waiting period to get to this point. So for me, it wasn't, am I going to wait or am I going to go? It was, you know, things were happening, Dr. Kevin, where the healing was significant with people. So I wasn't going to keep my light under a bushel basket. What good is that? What is that serving? Who is that serving? So again, I think we're here to be that unique ray of light, that unique, whatever your gift is, whatever your genius is. And it's not always to heal people. It may be just to, or not, I don't want to say just. It may be to be a writer. It may be, you know, to be a singer. There's so many ways that we can touch others, but ultimately I think any way that you're able to serve others is your genius.
Well, and you know, even though I know that it was a rhetorical question, when you say, you know, who does it serve, I really want our viewers to get that who it serves is, it serves your wound to stay wounded in an illusion of safety, and it serves your fear,
True.
and it serves the people who benefit by you staying small. Now, what they don't understand is they'd be far better served by you going big, but in their mind, you're better served by staying safe, staying with what you know. You know, why make life difficult for yourself? You know, all those little homilies that we hear that basically says, don't step outside that box. Don't step outside that box. You don't know what world is outside that box. And that world might eat you alive. All it's ever going to eat is the false you alive, so the real you can come out. And I'm all about coming out. I don't believe that anybody should be in any closet. Healer, psychic, pagan, gay, I don't care. I don't think there's a closet out there that serves anybody. It's just a temporary housing unit. And the sooner you get out of it, the more that you get to see who you really are in the light of day.
That's so true.
Yeah. So we have a piece of art of yours with your website underneath it. Can you, I'm knowing that they'll bring that up on the screen so that our viewers can see it as we're looking at it. Can you explain a little bit about that piece of art? Is there a story behind it? Or?
So I have several different ways that I do the artwork. They are all created digitally though. Rather than having a standard mouse, I have a mouse pen and a tablet. So this particular piece is called All Is Well, and it has an essence of the 7 major chakras in it. It has a lot of love-based energy. There are quite a few hearts in it, but people also see other images and shapes in it. This particular piece I drew, and pretty much all the pieces that I do, I go to that space within myself that is total unconditional love piece, and that's where I create the images from. So people actually feel, typically, some sort of energy from them in a positive way. There are some that people actually think they see movement in, because it's that love energy is actually captured digitally.
So now, I think we have more pictures. There's now. So what is the story behind this one? What is it called?
So this one is called Celebrating Love, and this one is one of the few that I actually went out to create a specific kind of image. In 2015, I believe, I did my first calendar of images and pretty much kind of fit my images into the months. Mm-hmm. And I didn't feel that there was one that resonated to July for some reason. So I specifically created this one for July. Yeah. And that energy of fireworks and magic in the night, and so that's kind of the story on this one.
I love this one. I think it's so funny that I love this one because my birthday's July 4th.
Wonderful. Yeah.
And I was sitting there going, I really like that. I really like that. Then you go, I created it for July. And I went, well,
really, pretty much 4th of July. Yeah. I love that. So this particular one and many of mine, this is actually composed of fractals. So I don't know if you know about fractals at all, but
explain to the viewers, please.
Fractals are found throughout nature and throughout all life. So I don't know if you've ever heard of the Fibonacci sequence, and there's a spiral of life, and so that is all fractal based. And our bodies are fractal based. So, for example, I'm don't quote me on this, but basically if you take this, part of your finger and you multiply it by pi, you get the length of this part of your finger, and you multiply that by pi, you get this length of this part of your finger. So fractals are kind of based on like mathematical formulas, and the highest resonance things like classical music have a very high vibration of mathematics. So the fractals are sometimes symmetrical. If you look in the center of that piece, you can see there's a kind of a 4-part spirally star that's kind of going in direction. So
because it's July 4th, we know this painting was done in honor of me, though you hadn't met me yet. I appreciate your foresight. Go ahead.
and then you can see there's like a kind of another layer that's almost like a turquoise circle. Again, that's got the 4. So even though this seems maybe random, it has a baseline structure to it, and that's the fractal. Again,
now that to me looks like something that came out of the 60s on an LSD trip. I'm just saying, not that I would know.
This is actually one of my most popular pieces. This is called Emerging to Love. And what I did was I took a very chaotic image. I just put a bunch of layers of fractal art on top of one another, and then I manually morphed it into a heart. And this one is done on a red background because this was my selection for December. But I do my art, or I print my art out on various backgrounds. So this looks totally different when it's on like a royal blue background, for example.
Oh yeah, I can see that because it's going to bring out different tonalities of the colors.
Yeah.
And do we have?
Again, some people, like when people look inside the heart on this, they see different things. Some people see animals, or angels, or whatever. So I don't want to really say what people see because I want the viewers to be able to see what they see.
See, I look at it and I see a face and I see somebody having a crazy hair day. And and there's always a certain amount of chaos and madness in love. That's why we love it. It makes us feel alive.
Yeah.
There's an aliveness.
Or it just can kind of transmute any kind of chaos. Love heals all.
Okay.
So this is my kind of take on the 7 major chakras, and I like to I like to look at things from the positive point of view rather than the negative. So these are all the positive aspects of having your chakras cleared, as opposed to how you feel when they're not clear. And that's also what the piece is that's next to me, is the large chakra piece.
Yeah. So because I'll
and
have
the chakras are like kind of central to the work I do, the healing work I do.
So everybody, now you've given a thing where you've given 2 or 3 words to each of these, which I think people find helpful sometimes, especially when they're in a learning process about this stuff. But people have different definitions. So I'd like you to take a second and give our viewers your definition of chakras as you see them and work with them as a healer.
Okay, I'd be happy to do that. Okay, so I mentioned before, we're not just our physical bodies. We're mind, body, spirit, and we're emotions. And this is not, this is my own kind of philosophy. I feel that, the spine in our body is central to our physical body. It's, it's kind of the command center. And these 7 major chakras are along that spine, with the exception of the crown chakra, which is above our heads. And I almost see it as an integration point. It's how the spirit self taps into the physical self. So when there is a emotion or a dense energy or a trauma that is stuck in that chakra or affecting that chakra, it affects the physical body as well. So somebody that may come to me because they're having stomach issues, that tells me I need to work on the solar plexus. It may also be that they have personal power problems, because the solar plexus is our personal power center. if you think about going to the doctor or going to, have your teeth cleaned, maybe as soon as you sit down, you cover up your stomach. It's just, it's almost instinctual. We want to protect our personal power. So the chakras for me are almost like a tool I use, and also it's a, I can't think of what the word would be, but a clue, I guess, for me of when something's going wrong physically with someone, where to start the work.
Maybe indicator.
Indicator, yes, that's a good one. This one's called Floral Love, and basically because it looked like a flower to me.
Okay. Makes I actually have a light blue T-shirt that's got a big flower on it, and it's got a little smiley face in the middle. And I looked at that, and it made me smile because it made me think of that shirt.
This one I really love. To me, it has an almost Celtic quality to it. It's called Goddess. And the way that the names for these pretty much is, I would be kind of playing. This is almost like playing to me. So playing and making these, and then, changing the colors, adding layers, taking layers away. And at some point, almost like when I'm doing healing work, there's a point at which I know my work is done, at least for that moment, right? You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
And so that knowingness would come, this is done. And then almost immediately a name would come for that image. So so this one is called Goddess, but to me it has Celtic energy to it. And I don't even know how to define what I mean by Celtic energy, but it's just this feeling that I have. Personally, I'm being drawn to Ireland. I know I'm supposed to go to Ireland for something, so this one kind of speaks to me of Ireland.
Well, maybe I'll see you there. I'm supposed to be there next summer, so who knows? It's so funny because when you were saying that, and I looked at the image at the very center, it felt like it was an image, and they were sending out strings of vibrational light through hands and feet. And interestingly enough, hands, feet, and then out of the shoulder chakras was how I saw it. Just that there was this things of light, and that each one brought out one, that brought out one, that brought out one, that brought out one, that brought out one.
Oh, that sounds lovely.
Again, we all see different things.
Yeah. And people use these in their home or office. I have people that use them just to kind of bring themselves to that point of centeredness for meditation. This is one of my original ones. This one is called Groovy Kind of Love. It kind of speaks to me of the artwork kind of things I would do when I was a teenager. But again, the center part, which some people see as an angel, some people see as a bird, that's all fractal. That's all fractal based. So, again, high energy.
Yeah, very, very interesting. Yeah, that does make me think of a '60s love song. Whoa. Whoa, there's the eye.
This one is called Higher Guidance.
Yeah.
Probably not surprisingly.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, so this one, the thing I really like about these is that even me, like looking at them, I see something different every time. And, there's sections of the artwork where you feel drawn in, you feel like a drawing in energy, and then there's other times you look at it and it's totally, emitting the energy, so.
Okay. Well, that's a little different.
Again, this is one of my very first ones, and this one is called Releasing Karma.
I swear, I see a cockatoo wearing sunglasses, and that's his tail going. So, interesting.
Yeah.
And we have another one yet? Still? Or is that the last one?
That might
Last
be the
one.
last one.
Okay, so that's great.
I do have more, but
Yeah,
I only
obviously, we just wanted to bring a few. And you have that with you there. Now, is that a sample of the, because you're going to be at the Web of Light Expo. Mm-hmm. And is that a sample now, how people would get pieces of yours? You've mentioned a calendar, you've
Yes.
mentioned this.
So this is one of my more popular pieces. This is actually a great, not just a visual display or something you would hang and never look at, but this is a really good tool for kind of clearing your chakras, becoming aware of your chakras, and almost doing like a visual meditation. So I will have these for sale, both framed and unframed. The good thing about the framed versions, and this particular frame I'm using, is that the plastic on it is very reflective. So when you stand in front of it, you can actually see yourself in the picture.
Lined up.
And so, in other
Okay.
words, you can see the chakras on your body. So I have this. I have prints to canvas. So I have actual canvases that I'll be selling of these pieces, and matted prints.
Yep. Yeah. So now I find it very fascinating because a lot of original art was created as an expression of spirituality, an expression of healing, communication, and we don't often, in this day and age, we don't often think of art in of itself as a healing tool, and yet it very much is. It can very much be a healing tool. Do you think that, I mean, like this art was created being a healing tool in mind, or did you create the art and then discover it was a healing tool, or?
Pretty much the latter. So I was going to metaphysical shows and offering to do mini sessions so people could experience my energy and see if they felt comfortable with it. And I had just a couple of these images. I think I had Releasing Karma, and I have another one called Into the Depths. And I just printed them out as like 5x7 prints, not matted, nothing, and brought them with me, and I had them on a table. And I just wanted to see what people thought of them, and the response was unbelievable. People said, I've never seen anything like this. I love this. And so then I started doing them as framed prints, and people would, people who didn't know anything about energy or energy healing, or who were still kind of in purely like a 3D kind of reality of we are our bodies and we are this one lifetime, would come up and say, why do I feel something when I look at this? Why do I feel like this is moving? And so it provided an opportunity for me to actually talk to them about spiritual concepts or energy healing. It became almost like not only I guess an activating kind of tool for some people. And does that make sense?
Yeah, I would almost say that it was an invitation. It was an invitation to explore, an invitation. And a lot of times when people especially are very early on in spiritual self-discovery, and kind of realizing that their spiritual path may be more than just a book, that it's a living, breathing, interactive thing, and that's very scary. I mean, a lot of people were brought up that spirituality in some ways is very two-dimensional. A lot of people don't, their religion doesn't personalize it into the being of their life. And so then they have an experience, and we can ignore feelings, But when we're curious and we're in exploration, our tendency is to actually be more heightened to our feelings. And we're trying to figure out what we're feeling. And so anytime that something is an invitation to ask questions, and as long as it feels safe, that, oh, you know, so it's making me, well, why would it make me feel something?
I think the other thing that kind of came to me, like a while, you know, after I finished talking and you were talking, was just like things can trigger us and trigger a wound in us. So this kind of high frequency, high vibration, love-based imagery can trigger us in a positive way. It triggers something within us, something that's been sleeping perhaps, something that maybe there's been other things in the way of. So I think I love to have people just come and look through the art, even if they don't want to buy it. I want them to feel that part of themselves that is responding on an energetic level to something.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that last piece that I thought, you know, looked like the cockatoo with the sunglasses, you know, the feather's going to go, you, wake up, get out of bed. So, you know, we've had, since recorded history, the fact that the priests and the, you know, the temples and the priestess and all of the different things have used visuals as part of the spiritual process. And what's art but a visual? And you'd look at mandalas, which have become very, very popular, and, you know, like, you know, color your own mandala and create and stuff like this. And so it's just another way to get in under that that block that may have been given to us accidentally by our father at 3 years old, or by something that happened at some point, or something we saw or we took in, that part of us that tries to keep life safe and manageable and in a two-dimensional reality where all things, you know, add up like 2 + 2 = 4, when in reality we know that 2 + 2 can equal 154,683,000.12, depending on which 2 it is. The other point you brought up, which is very interesting, is people always think of math as the antithesis to spirit, and yet math is such a spiritual thing.
Yeah, I would have never said that when I was in school, but yeah, it really is. There's a whole, I have actually done, as I said, I had this marketing business, so one of the websites I had the pleasure of working on was a woman who actually took a lot of Pythagorean formulas and created this musical instrument which like basically speaks, you know, to your soul. You know, music speaks to your soul, right? And it can speak to your soul in a harmful, heavy way, and it can speak in a light-filled way. So it's, you know, it's about kind of choosing what you expose yourself to.
Yeah, it can speak to you in a deep and profound way as well. So there's always this, there's a piece of music that I know whenever I need to like get out of, I've gotten too much into this moment now, and I need to like get into a different place in the now and light myself up. There's this one go-to piece of music I go to and I can always close my eyes and I can feel myself flying over the meadow, and I can feel myself go beyond sometimes whatever mental lock may have been holding me someplace. Because that's what happens with people sometimes. They get held in a mental, you know, like in this mental cycle of, you know, rush, worry, hurry, so much to do, so many places to go, blah, 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 the future, the past, the present, all are, and sometimes we just have to step out and we have to go beyond. And whether that's looking at a beautiful piece of art, and different pieces of music do it for different people. I mean, one of my particular go-to pieces is The Lark by Vaughan Williams.
I'm not familiar with it, but
Oh.
I can picture it, believe it
Yeah.
or not. I mean, you wouldn't think you can picture music, but I can picture it from what you're describing.
Yep.
So.
It is, and I can literally feel myself flying with that lark. As I'm sure that people at sometimes feel themselves going into some journey into a place that they didn't even know existed within themselves as they look at your art.
And I think that's one thing, is that there's a couple things I want to mention. The first is that we're taught to look outside ourselves, that, God is outside of us, that, the opinions of others matter more than our own opinion. And so I think spiritual growth a lot of times is about honoring the self and feeling that connection to God, source, all that is, that's within us. That's within us, not without us. And then the second thing that you've mentioned a couple times is how our fears and kind of these, I call them looping programs of self-limitation, can kind of hold us back from being who we really are. And, the fears will tell us that what comes next is scarier, but what comes next is more joy. When we let go of these things, what comes next is more joy. We become more light-filled. We feel lighter. We feel more in the flow of life. And,
I feel like you just answered the question I asked at the beginning of the show. What would you say to the people that are standing there in the precipice afraid to fly? And you just gave the perfect answer for that, which is...
Sometimes it takes me a while. Yeah.
So we are into wrap down. This time always seems to go by very fast. So you are going to be at the Web of Light Expo, April 22nd, 23rd. That's at the Courtyard Marriott in Nashua. And you are going to have you're going to have a whole display of your art.
Yes. I'll have a display of my art. I'll have someone there helping me to sell the art. But then I'm also going to have a healing space where I can do mini sessions with people or talk to people about doing, one-to-one sessions with me. Typically, my sessions are an hour in length.
Okay.
And at these type of events, I do 10 minutes, which can
Yeah.
still be a significant healing, because I can't,
Yep.
I can't say, okay, this person's only getting the 10-minute thing. I mean, they get what they get.
Yep. Great. Well, I want to thank you very much for coming.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
And so, you saw some beautiful art today. You heard some great moving stories. You got an invitation that what waits beyond letting go is more joy. We also talked today about some of you were raised to think that God is outside of you. If you have a God that's outside, here at Web of Light, we strongly recommend open up the door and let them in to find out that they were there anyways. You just forgot to look. Until next week, and everybody, have a very merry holiday, Christmas, Kwanzaa, whatever Yule, whatever it is, make it happy, make it joyful, make it yours, create your own traditions, be your own people, don't do what everybody else says. Just remember, this is a time of holy days. Make them your holy days. Namaste.